Work. What would humans be without it? Is being employed essential to being a human? If we were freed from work, what would we be left with? There are two Western views on work and where it came from, both familiar and religious. The first comes from Adam and Eve and believes that work is a curse. Man could have enjoyed eternal bliss, but because of an apple and a serpent, work is the cost man has to pay because he once wanted to be more than he is. Second view of work is puritanical. This is the belief that work is a blessing and not a curse. Work is the means, along with worship, by which people fulfill themselves and reveal their merit. To work is to accept the legitimacy of obligation. We don't work for momentary satisfaction, says psychologist Thomas Henricks. We work to accomplish ends that carry us into and through the later circumstances of life. In many ways, workers make the world. In our moments of carefree expression, we should credit ourselves for the unglamorous activities that helped us reach this point. The steady, uncelebrated efforts of our work and our ancestors' work provides the foundations of every person's happiness. That's what we're talking about today on Lawsome. What does doing the work of law mean in 2018? And how can we turn a curse into a blessing? Let's find out.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by Consultwebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that never saw a tort it didn't like. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in personal and professional development. I'm your co-host, Jake Sanders, and with me, as always, is noted PPC enthusiast and little-noted astrologist, Paul Julius. How is your Mercury, Paul? Is it in retrograde?
It's kind of a personal question.
I'm sorry, bro. I went right for it. Notice I'm not asking about Uranus. So.
I knew that was coming. As soon as you said astrologist, sorry, I knew where we were going.
It's a cheap butt joke.
It's never not funny.
Anyway, let's be serious. What's on the show?
Today on Lawsome, we're going to talk about the job market for lawyers and learn 10 things lawyers can do to get a job from lawcrossing.com. Interview DeNovo founder and CEO Carly Steinbaum about her legal employment app. And then Carly has no choice but to answer 10 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The article today is from lawcrossing.com. It's by Harrison Barnes. It's 10 ways to get your first job after law school. Found this article with a gentle Google search of interview tips for lawyers. It's interesting that the first one I came across was for students that are just about to get their first gig. So there were some essential tips that he had. He also didn't start it out in the best way. He said, if you don't get a job, everything will not be okay. So I thought that was an interesting trampoline into inspiration. But his tips are good enough. He says, apply to every open position, be flexible, enthusiastic, look good. If there's career services, people who can help you get your resume together, find those. Network with everyone. Mail out your resume, be a soldier, and get your application materials together. It was for students, but a lot of it applies to professionals. Paul, you found a link that goes along with this.
Yeah, so there was a similar one on Monster. It was called 5 Legal Job Search Essentials, and we'll throw the link in the show notes. I thought it was kind of an interesting kind of thing because, this is obviously Harrison Barnes here is at lawcrossing.com. So that's, dedicated to legal, whereas Monster obviously is pretty well known. And there's some comparisons. There's some similarities, the networking thing for sure. Boy, one thing that really stuck out is just if you read between the lines and obviously from what we've heard, people tell us is that, it's competitive. I mean, the legal field is competitive. It's hard to get a job.
He says apply to every open position, which I think is a good idea, especially if you're right out of law school. But I'm of the mind thinking that networking, trying to find connections, not just for jobs, but for people who are in areas that you're interested in, that seems like it's a more fruitful kind of endeavor, because throwing a bunch of resumes into the wind is difficult, especially on that Monster article. They say you should be custom tailoring each resume, really getting a cover letter that speaks to the position and is really specific. So if you're applying to 100 jobs, this could become a full-time job just applying to jobs.
I mean, and that's the truth. I think in the article, that's, the ones that are geared more towards recent law school graduates, obviously that is their job. There's nothing else to do. So do that. But I think you make a good point. Like, what if, you've already had your job, you're there for a while. Is it realistic to think like, well, that's it, man, I got that out of the way? It's just like law school. Like, okay, got the job. Now I'm going to be at this firm forever.
Harrison Barnes says, don't hold back. He says it doesn't make sense for, if you're trying to find a job, for you to hold back, like apply to every position. I think that's smart mentality to set off from. But I think that speaking to a lot of guests on this show who used to be lawyers, no one looks back lovingly on that time. And it's because they found themselves in a pattern that wasn't filling their cup up, So to say that it's all touchy-feely, it's about how you feel, what your values are. If it's not about that right now, eventually it'll get to that point when you realize that your cup is empty and dry and dusty and no one cares about it. And then you become indignant, and then who knows what happens, So a good point to remember is that you shouldn't wait for things to become miserable. If you're looking for a new job, that was one of the tips that Carly gave later. And her app has special ways for, law students who are looking for their first job, but more importantly for lawyers who are looking for a change. You can do it confidentially. You can find law firms that are in your areas, and you can just kind of swipe around and keep your finger on the pulse of a market, rather than getting committed to a position 5 years down the road, not knowing how things have changed, being totally over the legal career. That could happen. So, kind of thinking ahead like that and seeing if there's any technology that can help you. That's why DeNovo, that app that Carly has, great way for you to do it confidentially, get full firm diagnostics. Like, she has algorithms that pair you with firms and positions. So a lot of that kind of matchmaking stuff has been taken care of. Good tips. There are apps that can help you take advantage of the way the legal market's changing, and, stick around and we'll tell you about one.
Bingo.
Bingo.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
I met Tanner, who works for Consultwebs, on a plane on the way back from Key West, Florida. And I'd just been thinking that I needed to do some more marketing for my law firm. So when he told me that he worked for Consultwebs, I was super excited. From the beginning till even now, I've been with them for almost 2 years, and the experience has really been great. Having Consultwebs on board is really like having your own team of people that really care about what kind of business you're getting. I mean, practicing law can seem kind of lonely. You always are wondering, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to make payroll? But with Consultwebs, it's not just me worrying about having people come in the door. They're there as well. And they've been so responsive. Since I started with Consultwebs, I have increased the number of employees double at least. And since I started with Consultwebs, the revenue has tripled. It's really been an incredible experience.
Go to consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, for a lawsome interview.
Carly Steinbaum holds a JD from USC Law School, a business degree from University of Pennsylvania, and is the founder and CEO of DeNovo, an employment app for lawyers looking to take the stress out of finding work. She's been a commercial litigator, a white-collar associate, and a volunteer with BetSedec, a pro bono legal outreach program that provides legal services to low-income communities. Her awesome work on Twitter brought her to the attention of the podcast, and we're honored to have Carly on Lawsome today. Carly, how are you?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm great.
So tell us about the trajectory from being just a simple lawyer to starting this DeNovo, this app. Why this app? Why now? And why lawyers specifically?
Yeah, sure. So when I started back in Big Law, I was there for 4.5 years, and I had struggles. I felt it was a very soul-crushing job. I would work for 17 hours a day staring at a computer screen, often not talking to people. And there were times where I was like, I know I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, but I don't know what I want to do. And that, I think a lot of people have that struggle. And I then I decided that I wasn't quite ready to give up on litigation. So I went to a boutique litigation firm because I thought maybe if I could actually practice litigation in the way that if I could get into court and do all of the, write my emotions, I would enjoy it more. And so I transferred to a smaller firm and I enjoyed it. For 2 years, I realized, no, it's not them, it's me. I fundamentally didn't feel challenged in the right way. And I felt like I was never going to take that next level. And I didn't want to. I didn't like the practice of law fundamentally. So I decided to start my own business. I had always been starting businesses on the side. I started a wine distribution company with friends in 2009. And I was working on a legal tech startup. And I thought, you know what, let me just jump in and go 100% in starting my own company. And I quit, I traveled, and I actually, I know this is probably longer than you wanted, but I joined a legal recruiting company. I actually got the job before I quit. In my mind, that was a way to supplement my income while I was working on my own business, which at the time was another wine company. And a friend was there and he brought me in, and I was, I didn't have much respect for legal recruiters as a lawyer. I would get cold called all the time and I found them annoying. As a recruiter, I found out a couple things. One is it's actually a full-time job. It's not a side hustle if you want to make it work. And two, recruiters can be very valuable. If recruiting is done right, they can help not just a lawyer navigate, the process, but really help them figure out which is the right fits for them, personality-wise, culturally, and interest-wise. And so that was actually interesting to me, and I found that was my job. And I decided, though, I put the wine business down, and I thought there's a lot of good in what recruiters are supposed to do, but the business is dumb. I'm spending all of my time cold calling and, cold emailing, and it feels gross. I'm kind of disgusted with myself. I'm becoming the recruiter that I never really despised. But I thought, there's so much technology out there. Can't we help lawyers connect with the right jobs and a person if they want to can't we make this process more delightful, and streamline it using modern technology? And so that started my inspiration for DeNovo, which has since expanded. And now I'm really interested in that fit, helping lawyers not just know the universe of jobs that's out there, but which ones would be right for them. And I think actually I can use data and a little bit of a human touch to do that in a better way than traditional recruiting, but that's what we can get there. But yeah, so that's my trajectory and why DeNovo. And I'm starting with lawyers because that's what I know, and I want to get it right in a space. The plan for DeNovo is eventually, if I can do this, expand to other professional industries and then help everybody. But each industry has its own quirks. And I think to really be able to help people most effectively, it's important to understand each industry.
For lawyers specifically, on this show, we've kind of covered and everyone says since 2008, it ain't been the same.
Right.
So the job market's changing, but what about 2018? What's the job market like for lawyers today?
Yeah, it's funny. I started in 2008, so I don't remember any time before then. Yeah, 2018. So it's not bad. The market out there isn't bad for lawyers. It's a little bit down from last year and the year before, um, but it's pretty similar. So it's a little down, but it's not no reason for panic. But it's not
Right.
awesome. It's certainly not better than last year. So sorry, lawyers.
No, well, I mean, could you elaborate a little bit, like when we
Sure.
say not bad or a little
Yeah,
down,
I mean
like,
it's pretty similar, and I've looked at trends in the top 200 law firms and how lateral moves were in those 200 firms compared to last year at the same time, and it's a little bit. This year has had fewer moves, and I think there are fewer opportunities, and that's why. But it's relatively similar. There are certain practice areas that are really hot right now: privacy and cybersecurity. If that's what you do as a lawyer, this is a great market for you. Those people have a lot more opportunities. Something like white collar was really hot last year and the year before. It's still there, but it's not quite as hot as it was. There's still, corporate is a really popular field right now. It's general litigation is not quite as big um, for associates as it was, but it's still, it's similar.
okay. Good. So that's it, and that kind of leads into the next question I had, which is, there's obviously the job market, right? Like, so there's only a certain number of jobs available, and all these people applying, depending on which practice area it is. But on the other side of it, the applicants, the associates, what are some of the mental barriers you see when it comes to people trying to find a job? Are they too picky? Should they be willing to move? Is it, should they be thinking about, maybe going back and specializing in something different?
Good question.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think that is a good question. And I think, well, first of all, I don't think, it depends how desperate people are to get a new job and how interested they are. I mean, in terms of being willing to move geographically, if, I am from LA and I knew I wanted to stay in LA, I wouldn't have moved for a job. So I think that some of the barriers that associates face is that it's hard to know everything that's out there right now. This is why DeNovo is coming in. I think a lot of people wait until they get to that point when they're really miserable, and then they start looking for a job.
Yeah.
And I think there is, and that's part of, a lot of people I know, and I did spend a lot of time just looking on LinkedIn, looking on Indeed, sometimes go in-house. You kind of fantasize about a new job, but there's no way to know if that's a fit. You can't really ask anyone about what the job entails, with any questions about it. And so you just kind of wait until you get to that point. I'm trying to make it easier for people to confidentially and casually browse the market and know what is out there and right for them at all times. So they don't have to necessarily wait until they know for sure they want to leave, but they're always aware of their opportunities. And I think that will help people be able to move and know what's right. And I think this is not exactly related, but I think a barrier that people face is not knowing exactly not just what's out there, but what, makes one firm different from another. And I think law firms make terrible advertisers. This isn't exactly where we're going with this podcast, but it's
This is
true.
perfect.
This is great.
I mean, if you read, an example of, how a firm sells itself, that could be any firm. Firms will say, we are great with our clients. We handle, Fortune 500 companies and small clients, and we care about them, and we're ferocious advocates, but we're also great listeners. And it's like that says nothing. And so it's hard a lot of times for people to know the difference between a firm and what it's actually like. And maybe you have friends there who could give you anecdotal evidence, but I think that's a huge hurdle. I mean, people have asked me, why should I go to another big firm? What's the difference? And there actually are big differences. There's big differences in the alumni networks. There's big differences in how work is assigned, which matters. Some firms, compensate associates for bringing in work. Some don't. And there are real differences that, may be a better fit for associates, but they don't know. So you're not interested. You think all firms are the same.
Interesting. And it may be a case too of the grass is greener. Like you know, if you don't know, you make assumptions. So there could be some of that. But I'm a little curious about something you said before where you were talking about people wait until they're miserable.
I don't think it's
When
100% true, but
well,
I think it's largely true.
I could see that.
I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, we talk to a lot of lawyers, and I wouldn't say as a whole it's miserable, but I think do you have anything that you tell people about, you know, when is the right time to maybe start putting out some feelers?
Yeah, I mean, I think what like a lot of recruiters will say is don't wait until you're miserable and you're ready to get out, but you should always have your pulse, on the market. You should always just know what's out there. And I think that that's true. And I'm trying to make that easier for people to do. I think there's, and a lot of people may just look on LinkedIn, you kind of glance and see what's out there. But I mean, people aren't going to move until they're ready to move. I think that the suggestion that people should always kind of know what's out there and write, because you never know what's going to come up, is true. And I've seen people tell me, okay, now I'm ready. And they missed a great job for them by like a month, and had they known, then they could have applied for it.
In regards to the app and job hiring, it just kind of seems like every time I've ever kind of like gone out for a new job, I just felt like it was me against everything, and that I had to get my dance routine together. I had to sing right. I had to get my makeup looking good.
I'm sure it was beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, no. It was pretty good.
Strike me as a guy. Yeah, that really.
Well, so I read a lot of memoirs of a geisha, so I go in full regalia. And I'm just like, take me as I am. No,
you should have seen it when he applied for this job. It was epic.
I'm sorry.
I had curlers.
Yeah.
I had a moo-moo. Anyway, so I just kind of think that if you're looking for a job, you're so concerned if people will love you. You're not thinking of if people are worthy of you. Do you kind of view job hunting as a two-way street? Like how do you help clients evaluate potential job opportunities, firms and partners? Just like what you were saying, there are differences at big law firms. So how do you think they should go about finding if there's a good fit? Is there somewhere they can look? And then does DeNovo help kind of get those, maybe like a dossier for each firm, like this is what they have, like the remuneration, like how people get paid, how do you help with that?
Yes, DeNovo will help. What we launched with now is kind of to test the version of the app to test the market. What we'll roll out in the next few months, I think you'll see is a lot more robust. What we want to do is really help lawyers figure out, we want to help guide them through that fit. So what you'll see in the next version is, each lawyer, you'll sign up and you'll have your list of DeNovo good fits, the ones that we, based on your profile, are, what we think are a match for you, the ones that you can, you have a shot at, we think you have a good shot at, at least getting an interview at. And that's mostly credential based. What I do think is important is to look at people's interests and eventually personality. And I want to incorporate all of that and really help people figure out that fit. Because yes, nobody likes to get rejected, and a lot of job hunting is getting rejected. Yeah. But I think that's important to make people feel good throughout this process. And I think that's why people who use recruiters, and good recruiters, like using them, because they can often act as that cheerleader, that somebody to keep you, feeling good about yourself throughout this whole process. And that's true, not just in law. I mean, I don't know anybody who wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I'm so excited I get to search for a new job today. I just love going on LinkedIn. It really knows me. But I feel so, warm and fuzzy every time I, go on there. But so that's, I think, very important. And we're really focused on that fit. And I think I can use data about who a person is and what a company is. And there will be a way for you, you being a lawyer, to read about the firms and comments that people have said. And eventually people will be able to agree and disagree and add their own comments. So you can see what something is really like. And we will eventually incorporate personality tests on the other side, because what I have found is that a lawyer may be great, on paper and have a great personality, but they may not thrive in a firm because it's not the right either cultural fit, or doesn't, they want something that's more entrepreneurial, and this firm wants somebody who's just a brilliant writer, and they feel kind of stuck. It doesn't match what they want. Or they really want to do is not talk to people, sit down and write and research. And that's great for some firms and not for others. And so figuring out what people's skill sets are and aligning interests is really important. And I think, people think they know what they want. Firms will say they want everything, but they don't, and so here, what I want to do is kind of cut through that.
I mean, that's really well thought out, because I mean, a lot of times you don't get that from a LinkedIn post, from a LinkedIn
Right.
job posting or something like that. Like, it's really hard to figure that out until you get to the interview, and then you're like, oh, I made a terrible mistake. You know what I mean?
Or worse,
like,
you get the job and you're
yeah,
like,
well,
this isn't at all what I thought it was.
I did, before we get into the next question, I did have, you mentioned LinkedIn, and I just kind of off the cuff, like, what do you think about LinkedIn? Like, we've had a lot of different guests on here talk about, networking and stuff like that, but I've never really straight up asked someone, like, from a getting a job perspective for lawyers, what do you think?
I don't think LinkedIn is good for lawyers particularly at all. And I think a lot of lawyers would agree with me. I mean, I didn't use it very much as a lawyer. It may be a little bit better than it was. What happens a lot of times on LinkedIn is that a firm may post a job opening, and then 7 other recruiters will post the same job opening. And so you're looking through LinkedIn, and it's very confusing if they're all talking about the same job, or the recruiter will post it but not say the name of the opportunity. So you're like, I don't know what this is. I mean, I had a candidate once apply to a job thinking he was applying to a company because he wanted to go in-house, but no, it was a law firm. He just was, the recruiting firm was like Red Rock or something that sounded very company-like, and he just was confused and applied to a job he didn't mean to apply to. And I think there is a lack of transparency on LinkedIn, and people get spammed by recruiters. Now there's that, I'm interested, I'm not, you can toggle that. But I think there's a lot of crap out there, and I'm not knocking LinkedIn. I think it's a very valuable tool, and I think a lot of business people use it well. I don't think it's quite as helpful for lawyers as it is for business people. Not as many people network on it. A lot of people just accept, anybody who sends them a request, and it just kind of, you sit there, your profile sits there.
Yeah. I think there's great power to having people control some of that and saying, hold on, I'm in control of what is getting thrown at me. Because it is true. LinkedIn is, I'm constantly getting hit up by headhunters for jobs that I don't want, but they think I want, or I'm getting direct mail from someone who wants to, partner with me for what?
Yeah.
Why? I don't know who you are. But to increase my numbers and network, I like him and I follow him and I talk to him. And then you're like, well, I've wasted my life.
Get off LinkedIn, Jake.
So getting back to the recruiter, that middle person, that person who can cheerlead you on to get you a good gig. Some jobs aren't going to come with a recruiter.
Correct.
So what alternative avenues have you seen lawyers pursue to get jobs, like internships, networking, and any kind of those connections?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to throw out there that DeNovo will help all firms connect with candidates. It's not only the ones that use recruiters. In fact, I think a lot of times recruiters aren't necessary. And that's why, I think I can connect firms and companies with the right talent in a more effective, cost-efficient way. But where there's that really hard to find candidate and a firm wants to use a recruiter, DeNovo will be a platform to help candidates connect with recruiters as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But in terms
very important.
Yeah, in terms of right now, I think the best way for people to get jobs now is to network. It's easy to, if you meet somebody and you like them, they're hiring you have that knowledge. That's what I tell people is always a great way to get a job. That's, I think, my number one. And if, there are a lot of firms, most firms don't use recruiters. I mean, there are over 440,000 law firms in the United States. So the vast majority are not paying, 50 grand a pop for an associate. So yeah, I would say network. That's the best thing to do. Because if you're just applying blindly on LinkedIn, that's tough. You apply, it goes into this black hole. You're like, I don't know, maybe they got it, or they're going to see it. I never heard back. Is it really what's going on? That's why that's not ideal. But I mean, that is an alternative. A lot of people do go on LinkedIn and apply directly. It's easy, and it's something, it's a way to do that.
Yeah, but you're right, though. It's just something. It's not the thing.
No, it's not the thing.
It's just another point of, sort of just getting on a treadmill, but never heading anywhere. So when you're talking about networking, kind of getting offline, when we're talking about getting the gig, is there something that our audience, how could you elevate their chances of getting hired? Is like, do they need a professionally done resume? Do they need really nice, expensive outfits or headshots? And then how can they effectively do some networking? Do you have any tips on that? Sorry, that's a giant question.
I think you should do their makeup. I think that would really help.
You're going to look great.
I don't think you don't need glamour shots. You don't need anything like that. I mean, your bio, if you're a lawyer, it's online. So they see you. Yes, you do need a resume, and I am happy to look at people's resume. My friend and I are actually going to start kind of a side career coaching, a related service, and to help, revise people's resumes, do some interview prep, and guide people kind of, I do it for free with, people I'm working with for recruiting, but we're going to expand that out and have a whole kind of service. We're going to test that out. But anyway, yes, you do need a resume, and there are certain formats that law firms are used to seeing. So that's helpful. You do need to kind of know how to interview. A lot of people interview to get their first, most people interview to get their first job, but most people are rusty. And so you've got to dust off those skills. And that's very helpful, because interviewing is, obviously key. If you come off as a buffoon in an interview, you're much less likely to get the job.
It doesn't matter what your makeup looks like, right?
Yeah, right. It doesn't matter. Exactly. And, in terms of do you need an expensive suit? Of course not. But if you look totally schlubby, or you don't wear a suit, or, your shoes are different colors, or socks are different colors, whatever. I have actually mistakenly worn two different shoes, but I don't recommend that. You do stand out, you get remembered, but not necessarily in a good way. So in terms of the you just want to blend it. You don't want to stand out because of your look. You want to stand out because of your dashing personality and confidence.
Going into that interview skills, they're rusty, they're dusty, no matter what. I don't know anyone who's a professional interviewer, because that person doesn't have a job, I'm assuming.
Yeah, right.
What are those tips professionally for interviews? I know one of the things that I have consistently blown is you don't want to talk more than they do. Sometimes I'm just talking. And there's a moment where I'm halfway through a story about how I had my cat trapped in a locker room. And I'm like, this is going horribly, right?
A lot of lawyers don't tend to blab on and on, though they can. I am a blabber. So that is right. You want to make sure that you don't talk for, I would say, 1 or 2 minutes. If they ask you, so tell me about yourself. You don't start with, well, I was born in this hospital, and then my parents moved to these cities, and I went to this. You don't need to give the whole life story for 30 minutes. That would bore people. The 3 biggest tips that I would give people interviewing are: 1, don't talk for more than 2 minutes about, in a single question. 1 to 2, keep it 1 to 2 minutes. 2, sound confident. If they ask you a question about, have you done this kind of work? What I find is that people will sometimes they'll say, oh, no, I haven't, period. That doesn't instill confidence. Don't lie and say, oh, yeah, lots of times, when the answer is 0. You want to couch the no. No, I haven't done that, but I have done this, which I think is similar because this, or well, I haven't exactly done this, but I've done this kind of thing, and I'm confident that I would be able to pick that up really quickly to kind of soften the no and sound more confident. I think that's really important. I think a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit in interviews, and that kind of isn't helpful. And then 3, my biggest tip is to don't speak in bullet points, but speak in narration. Tell a story. If they ask you what have you been working on, they don't need a bullet point. Well, yesterday I did a summary judgment motion in a case, a wrongful death case, and then I took 2 depositions last week, and I do a lot of research. I mean, they can see from your resume, so you don't need the bullet point like it's on your resume. But to stand out, if you can tell a story that people remember. My favorite case is this one I'm working on now about these doctors who were frozen out of their hospital, and they can't get to their patients, and it's a big mess because of Medicare, whatever. I'm throwing things out there, but that telling a story connects with people, and that resonates. And I find that to be the most effective interview technique.
I think something that people can be confident about is not everyone is going to have experience with everything. And just because you haven't necessarily done that particular job thing before, it doesn't mean you're a bad fit for it. So, I mean, that's fantastic advice. Is be like, I haven't done that, but I can see myself transitioning to that because of, A, B, and C. That's great. Really, really good. That's really powerful. To get back to DeNovo, let's talk about actually getting the interview. How does it help, and does it play in with like existing social media channels? Is there connections to a stronger online presence? Is there, just give us some of the well, I don't want to say bullet points now because you made me feel bad about it, but like
tell you a story about DeNovo.
Yeah, tell
us the story.
Well, so in terms of how DeNovo helps people get jobs, I mean, not only do we kind of have an algorithm to help you figure out the fit, so you can take the guessing game out of it. And part of that is also what I have seen is that in job postings, a lot of firms will throw the kitchen sink in there. We need basically a unicorn. And a lot of people will look, especially females, and I'm not gender whatever, but my experience has been a lot of guys will say, they want these 5 things and they want 5 years of experience. Well, I have one of those things and 2 years of experience, but I'm going to go for it. Whereas a girl will say, I only have 4 years of experience and 4 of those things, of the 5 things they want, I'm not a fit. I'm not going to go for it. And that's a shame, because a lot of times that law firms threw that out there and they don't really mean all of those things. And so we're trying to help people not self-select themselves out of a job they actually would be qualified for. But so we help both with that fit. 2, right now, DeNovo is serving as a middleman. So if somebody applies through DeNovo, well, right now in the app currently, if you're interested in a job, you can chat with an expert who is me. And then I can help you doing your resume, and I will submit you to the job, and I have, a line to the recruiters. So you're less likely to get lost in the shuffle because, you have somebody dealing with it directly and is on top of it for you. And where DeNovo is going is there will be a hybrid of, DeNovo will serve as the middleman and can navigate that process for you. And also eventually will connect you. There will be a dashboard for the firms directly. And so when people apply who are already predetermined to be a match, they'll go directly to the hiring person, and who will have a dashboard to be able to easily and conveniently look for candidates too. So we're trying to make the process more streamlined and better on all sides, and give people more clarity, because nothing is more annoying than applying to a job and just not hearing back.
I want to ask one question though. Does DeNovo help with the credentials of a lawyer's online presence?
Yeah.
Because like if I'm on Avo, do I need to be answering questions to be considered more strong of a candidate for something? Or if I have a LinkedIn profile that's incomplete, will that negate some opportunities?
Good question. For DeNovo, I mean, you can log in with LinkedIn and it will pull some information. We're also pulling from this database of lawyers we have, which is not Avo. But I don't think that really matters, to be honest. I think it is more helpful to have a LinkedIn profile, just not necessarily for DeNovo's purposes, but for a lawyer's purpose. I know a lot of people who don't have LinkedIn profiles, and it, a lot of times if you apply to a job through LinkedIn, there are, algorithms that look for keywords. And so if your profile says nothing, you're less likely to get noticed. And so I do think it is helpful to have a LinkedIn profile for that reason. I don't care as DeNovo, but the lawyer should care, because for other reasons, they're not going to get reached out to. Not that they necessarily want to, but you're not going to get reached out to if you say nothing or don't have one. I don't know anything really about Avo. I never used it as a lawyer. I don't know anybody who references it. I'm sure there are people that do. And so I would say in general, it's probably a good thing to always have your bio updated. And I think also,
right,
yes,
no matter where you are.
Also, and I was terrible at this as an associate, but associates and partners should make sure that their bio on the website is A, updated, and B, has a lot of stuff. I think mine said Carly is an associate in the litigation department, period. I mean, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
To the point.
Yeah, that was really impressive. But so I that is a missed opportunity. If people are looking for something, that's not, and talk about standing out, that is certainly not going to stand out. I could have been a lot more, I could have bragged a lot more about myself, but yes, there's a lot more I could have put and should have probably put on my bio, which I did, I think, right before I left. But lawyers should do that. That is Avo's good. The bio on the website is better, because that's the first place that people are going to go to look about you.
And LinkedIn, I mean, like it or not, a lot of people are going to look you up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And look, they're going to look at you, even if they're not supposed to look at your profile on Facebook. They probably, I did. Maybe I can't admit that legally, but I don't know. Some people might, I'll say. So if you have a lot of public pictures that are embarrassing, I tend to think that's your personality, so own it. But if there are pictures that you wish you didn't have up there, then don't have them. But if if you're kind of a fun person and there are a lot of pictures of you, drinking and having fun, if you're comfortable with that because that's your personality and you don't want to be at a place that's not gonna, appreciate that, fine. But if you are not comfortable with that, make sure that those are private.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that at the end there, because I think most people now understand that there's different settings. And what's public is what you're putting out there as public. Like, it's okay if your buddies see you doing keg stands or whatever, but like that may not be something that your kid's teacher should be looking at. So right. It's almost like you're purposely doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I agree. Of course, private is best. I think I didn't realize that some of my pictures were like people could see them. I thought they were totally private, and then I went on from somebody else's computer and I was like, oh, well, this is bizarre. How do people see this with me in a bikini? So, yeah. So I don't think people think to check. And so my point is just check.
I warned Jake I was going to ask about this. On the DeNovo site, it says DeNovo is professional recruiting for the Tinder generation. That doesn't mean we're exactly like Tinder. I'm curious, and I'm not going to ask you about Tinder, but I just want to know. But one thing that people like about Tinder is that it's very easy to use. And so I just wanted to kind of get your feelings, your opinions, your approach to that ease of use. Like, how simple is it for folks to just pick up their phone and I'm on DeNovo and this is the kind of experience I'm going to have? Yeah,
it's funny that you mentioned that. I am moving away from that. I should get rid of that. The reason that I had that is for that reason. I think Tinder and a lot of swipey dating apps are, yes, they're easy to use and they're kind of fun and they gamified a little bit, the unpleasant, dating process of finding somebody, it made it fun. And my whole thing was to make job hunting, which is often an unpleasant experience, fun and light. Because I think people should be encouraged to know what's out there confidentially. Obviously lawyers are worried that their firm is going to find out they're on it, and that is, they wouldn't on DeNovo. that's very important to me. But so that was the whole Tinder generation. I want people to engage with, the app and know what's out there. I think that that's important. And it shouldn't be looking for a job shouldn't be a serious process. Deciding whether to take a job is serious, but just looking shouldn't be. And so that was that's why it was the Tinder generation. And I started, the app now, it's that same kind of swipe feature. So no, it's not quite as easy where you just sync it to your Facebook and you can swipe through jobs. There is an onboarding process because we have unlike Tinder where you just swipe and if the other person on the other side swipes back on you, you're a match. Ours is algorithm based. So there's an onboarding process that a lawyer needs to go through because when they swipe on a job, it runs through our algorithm and that's how we determine the match. But I'm kind of moving away from that. I will still have in the next rollout, I think I'm still going to keep there will be an option to swipe, but there will also be a list view where people can, in one, there'll be you can look through a list of the jobs and then expand them to read about the firm, the job posting, comments, and then press some buttons. Or you could go to card view. But I think a lot of people, unlike dating apps where it's kind of fun to, there's an endless supply of people and it's one after one after one. And in a job hunting, I think that's what I found from, this launch that I did is it's not quite the same. People don't necessarily want to go one by one.
It's interesting for me though, because I'm not, the reason it stuck out to me is because I'm not a lawyer, so I have to find a frame of reference. I have to have some kind of point. So I know okay, Tinder swipe, what I mean. So
right.
There's that kind of thing. So I guess I was just looking at for more of like a functionality reference kind of thing. But I certainly understand it's not as easy as hook up your LinkedIn because you obviously want to make sure there's more to, finding the right career step than I think than Tinder takes into account for. So I get what you're saying.
I like that there's an algorithm, that there's a chance for you to find a match that's a lasting connection. So I think the Tinder thing is from a functionality point. I like the idea of it being swipeable, and people have Tinder in their head as it's an easy access to something that's been really hard to get. It actually makes things more complicated. It's like just because you've had a bunch of engagements doesn't mean the likeliness that you'll find some meaningful something out of this. Whereas this app is like, let's work with you on board, figure out where your personality is, those credentials, and find a match. But I also want law firms who are listening to this to know that they can get on this app too to find people. This isn't just for people looking for work.
Good point. Right now, I am focused. Law firms can't sign up yet.
Okay.
Well, they can. I'm posting a lot of jobs. I'm scraping them and posting them. They can also email me, and I have manually posted a bunch of jobs. And I think we're just about to launch on our website a way for firms to post jobs, which I will do for free right now, and while I'm still testing this. So if any law firm out there wants to find people, and it's in a city that we're focused on right now, we have 27, the major cities. Give me your job and I'll post it for free, no downside.
Cool.
So yes, thank you for mentioning that. Where we're going, the reason it's a little, when you start this kind of marketplace, it's a little chicken and eggy, how do you get this going? So I'm focused first because I have some job postings focused first on appealing to lawyers and kind of proving that people will engage with an app to get a job. And then I will have that dashboard so firms and companies can also sign up, and they'll be a part of DeNovo too. But I do want to make sure that lawyers know if they currently, we're again changing the swipe, but if they swipe on a firm, that doesn't mean that a firm is looking at their profile and swiping back, because that would have stopped me from until I was ready to move. That takes some of the casual and confidentialness out of it if a firm is swiping on you until you're ready to move. In terms of the Tinder generation, not to go back to that, but a lot of people have asked me why I'm starting with an app as opposed to a website.
Good question.
Oh, thanks. But
You should be on the show more.
Speaking of job
yeah,
hunting,
you guys hiring? Yeah, the reason that I'm doing that is because of this. I want to keep it confidential and casual. And while a lot of people will stare, while they're at work, they'll have their browser open and they may, stare at LinkedIn or Indeed or other job sites. At home, you're less likely, if you want to look for a job, to open your computer and casually browse. I want to keep this as I'm in the elevator, it's at work, let me quickly see if there are any more good jobs for me. I'm waiting for a meeting. I want to, everybody has their phone. We're connected with our phones. And I think people engage, people engage with apps a lot more than they, necessarily engage with a website. You may just read a page and then that's it. But I'm collecting and will collect on what people are interested in, what they're not. So then I can help make better matches for them. So that kind of casual engaging aspect, I think, is much easier on an app. But when firms sign up, the dashboard for them will be on the website.
So, Carly, wrapping up, how can people learn more about DeNovo and learn more about you?
The website for DeNovo is www.denovoapp.com. That's DENOVOAPP.com. And if anybody wants to chat with me, please feel free to email me. It's carly@denovoapp.com. Or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will check it, I promise. But yeah, Carly Steinbaum. I'm the one and only, which is easy. Send me a tweet. You can send me a Facebook message. I am available. So if anybody does want help, you want to chat about, how to help your law firm hire, if you're a lawyer, you want, advice on getting a job, reach out. I am happy, talk to anyone and everyone.
Ten questions we ask everyone.
here we go with
All right.
the cleverly titled 10 questions we ask everyone.
Okay.
Number 1, what was the last book you read?
It's funny. I actually thought about this before I knew you guys were going to ask this. I don't read that much, but the last the last book I read was The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good book.
Number 2.
I read one book a year, so that was my book for 2017.
It could have been.
That was it.
We could have seen. You could have been like it was in high school. So whatever. Okay. Number 2. What is your best habit?
That's a good question. Do I have any good habits? No, I mean, I guess my best habit is that I walk every morning. That's healthy.
Yes, it's an excellent habit. Number 3, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or none of the above.
I would say Instagram, which is not one of your options, but if it's not Instagram, then Facebook.
Cool. Okay. Maybe I'll add Instagram. Number 4, coffee or tea?
Coffee, but I also like tea.
It's okay. We'll accept that.
Okay.
Okay. As long as coffee's in there.
That's okay.
That's good. Okay. Number 5, what is your favorite place?
Well, I always say my happy place is the northern part of Thailand. So if I disappear and nobody can find me, I'm probably roaming around Thailand in the northern part somewhere.
Sounds amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah. It is.
All right. Yeah. Number 6, is Keanu Reeves a good actor?
Okay, so I really like Keanu Reeves and I really like his movies. But I mean, I'm not surprised he hasn't won an Oscar.
That's a great answer.
Well-rounded answer, Carly.
He's a lawyer.
Okay.
Totally.
Number 7, what was your first job?
So I guess my first job was, my first job that I really applied for and got my first job that I applied for and got was in a bowling alley in college. I lasted 2 weeks, but it counts.
Okay, it counts. Yeah, definitely. Number 8, what is a skill you have outside of your current occupation that you incorporate into your work?
I was going to say a skill. I'm pretty good at wine tasting. I don't know if I incorporate that in my current work. It helps, but let's say a skill is that I'm a good listener. And that is very helpful when you talk to people about their jobs. True. And what they need.
Yes. True. Yes, absolutely. Number 9, What sites, blogs, or newsletters do you regularly check in with?
Okay, so I regularly read the news. I start my mornings reading CNN.com, and I have some other news sites that I read. I check my Facebook to see what's going on. I will look at LinkedIn. In terms of blogs, the one that I look at most regularly is abovethelaw.com.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my
Love those
go-to.
guys.
I also often check my friend's blog at Leave the Law Behind. I've done a guest blog for him too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that helps lawyers who are looking to transition out of law. And he actually, if there are lawyers who think that they do want to get out of the practice of law, I've partnered with Casey, the founder of that, and you can chat with him through DeNovo also. So what I'm trying to do is create a platform to help lawyers with whatever needs they have. So if you were like me and then wanted to get out but don't know how, he can help, and you can access him through DeNovo. So that's something that people should know.
That's awesome.
No,
Cool.
thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
We have made it to the end, number 10. After a long day or a long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
Drinking. Yes, but
Join the club.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, look, my favorite activities are to go out to restaurants and eat good food and drink good wine. Or it doesn't have to be like fine restaurants. It could be, like a local cheesesteak place. But that's my favorite activity. Or sit on my couch and watch my DVR.
For show notes, links, and info, go to www.consultwebs.com/lawsomepodcast. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.